Hey, our town, welcome inside Club 63, where we'll be having conversations with Rangers past and present throughout the year. I'm Dan Polishchuk, and joining us for the inaugural episode is Rangers alum Elijah Roberts. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So,
when you guys called me and asked me to come down, I was pretty excited. And, I love playing here over the years. So happy that you guys wanted to have me as the first guest.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of exciting things going on in your life, really, on and off the ice, too. And we really want to touch on that. But you mentioned off the top, you had some great memories coming from your time here in Kitchener. What was it like walking through the front doors after being gone the last couple of years?
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I mean, I've been gone. I was in Niagara for 3 years. So it's been a while. And the last time I was here, I actually didn't even get the chance to play. I was hurt at the time. So it was a little bittersweet not getting that last time to play here. But, I'll always come back here over the years and watch games. And I had a lot of great memories here. And those will kind of last with me forever.
It wasn't too unique of a situation in your sense, in your case anyways, with graduating from the OHL. But not only were you graduating, you had the season cancellation. You're looking at starting school at Ryerson here coming up soon. So you're navigating your post-secondary education. You're still looking for a shot in the NHL. Not only that, you're starting a new podcast in association with the NHL. Can you talk about maybe some of the emotions and what's going through your mind as you're navigating through this really crazy summer?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot. The season ending kind of just hit us real quick. Like no one was really expecting it until the NBA canceled their games, and then it kind of started to hit us that this could be the end of it. And me and the other OAs went out for our last practice. We kind of knew like this was it. We weren't going to play after. And after that, it was quick. Everyone gathered up their stuff, went home, and then for me, the decision for school, I really started to think more about that. It was something that I didn't want to really focus on during the season just because I wanted to focus on kind of getting into the playoffs, finishing strong, maybe getting a contract or something. But once I was done, I really went in to evaluate all my options. And I looked at some schools out east and some schools down out here in Waterloo, Kitchener. And I really just kind of came to, with Ryerson, they're always a winning program. Close to home, which is huge for me. I got a younger brother who I think it's important for me to be pretty close to him. And, that's how I ended up with that decision. And with the podcast, it was something that Akil and I and Kwame talked about for a long time. And with everything that was going on, we kind of just figured, hey, we're all in lockdown. This is the perfect opportunity to kind of start it up and get it going. So that's kind of just how everything unfolded.
Well, let's delve into that a little bit. It's called Soul on Ice, and you're about 2 months into it, I believe, and the episode has been sounding great, by the way. But first of all, talk about the relationship you developed with Akil and Kwame Damon Mason, who's an award-winning filmmaker in his own right.
Yeah, I think it was actually in April when we started.
Wow,
so
okay.
we've had a lot of episodes so far, but yeah, Akil and I, we've known each other from the Marlies days. He got called up a little bit and we didn't know each other too well, but when I got to Niagara, he was one of the first ones that kind of welcomed me in, and our relationship developed like pretty quick, and we kind of became best friends probably 2 months into the season, and ever since that we've just been super close. And then with Kwame, he made his movie obviously, and Akil and I made cameos in it, and when me and Akil were just talking about like what's something we can do, we came up with the podcast, and we figured who's a guy that we could bring on that would kind of have some experience and would be pretty good for it. And we both thought of Kwame, and we hit him up, and right away, at first he thought we just wanted him on for an episode, and once we told him we actually want you to be a part of it, he was on board right away, and we kind of just ran with it after that.
Tell me a bit about that cameo role that you both had too, and the movie in general for those at home who might not know anything about it.
Yeah, Akil was in it a little bit more, but just for the Skills Black Aces, I played a lot of summer hockey there, and Kwame was always in the arena making or getting footage. And I'm not in it a lot, but if you watch a movie, you'll see me just in the dressing room getting hyped up for games or little stuff like that.
Do you prefer being in front of the camera or behind the mic?
I don't know. I've been behind a mic for a little bit now with the podcast and everything, but I like being in front of the camera. I find it's a little bit more fun. You can show your personality a little bit more being in front of the camera. So.
Talk about a heck of a seed you just planted, though, with this podcast and venturing into sports media with your education, too. There's got to be no better training for this.
Yeah, I mean, right away, right off the top, I'm getting experience talking to people like Ron McLean and David Amber, who've been in this game for a long time, and they know how it works. So I think even talking to them and getting advice from them is giving me more education than sport media would. But it's the perfect training for it. And right away when I get into sport media, I'm in general arts first year just because it's sport media is the only program in Canada, so it's really hard to get in first year, but I'm going to transfer into it. But as soon as I get into it, I'm already going to have a big advantage on a lot of people being able to get this experience from the podcast.
And in general, why is the timing of this podcast and the podcast in general so important at this point in time, would you say?
Just with everything that's going on in the world, with all the craziness going on, like there's a lot of people that need to hear what we have to say. And when George Floyd was murdered, that was like for us to have a voice to talk about things and express how other athletes are feeling and how young Black men are feeling. We thought that was super important to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. And in those conversations, how do you compare preparing for, I know it's a little different obviously, but preparing it for a game versus preparing for sometimes heavy discussions too, and just being as well spoken about those sort of things too?
Yeah, it's just, my mom says all the time, just read. I hate reading. I'm not a big fan of it. I'd rather watch videos or just scroll on Twitter and see stuff there. But my mom and dad have both stressed educating yourself and knowing what you're talking about so you don't make a fool of yourself, and just so when you're talking you look smart and articulate your words properly. So been doing a lot of reading just before each episode, and the whole week in advance. As soon as we find out our guests, it's research, trying to figure out as much as I can about the person and ask the best questions possible.
You mentioned about the importance of the bond that you have with your brother as well, but maybe speak to the relationship with your parents that you brought them up now. Your mother just celebrated a birthday earlier September too, so happy birthday belatedly to her. But what's the connection like there in terms of them guiding you down this path? Yeah,
they've been all the support in the world. Both my parents, from the time I was young, they've been right by my side. I don't think I would be in the OHL or have a podcast without them. And both my parents are really outgoing people, and they're always speaking. They can public speak. They own their own businesses. So just kind of learning under them has really helped me with getting things going.
Notice you've got the OVO wear right there, and Akil Thomas, obviously his own clothing line launched recently. Are you going to be coming out with anything soon? I just had to ask.
That's always been a plan of mine, actually, to have my own clothing brand. I just don't want to start it until I have the money to really put out a lot of product and get a good campaign going and really promote the stuff. And I got a lot going on right now, so I kind of wait until I'm done with some of the things I'm at now, and then probably get going with the clothing brand. But in the future, you will see it for sure.
A lot of planning, a lot on your plate already. Speaking of OVO and Drake and the Raptors specifically, not only are you big, obviously, into hockey, big basketball fan yourself. It was interesting, though, in chatting with you earlier, and going back to last year, even when Kawhi Leonard hit the shot, you were probably the only person in the GTA and surrounding area that probably wasn't going crazy.
No,
because you're a Philadelphia 76ers fan.
I was going crazy, but not for the same reason everyone else was. I'm a big Sixers fan, and I was pushing for them all last year that they were the best team, and I still to this day believe they were the best team in the East last year. I mean, anyone who plays sports know one shot either way. Game 7 can go either way, but I'm a big Sixers fan. Although I do support the Raptors. Being from Toronto, you gotta support all your hometown teams, and they were a great team this year, but they ran into a good Boston team who I think is gonna make it to the final and maybe give whoever's in the final a good run at their money.
And it's good timing that you're coming back to Kitchener right now when the local hero, really, Jamal Murray, Captain Canada's, a lot of people have dubbed him, doing wonders with the Denver Nuggets, leading them to a Western Conference final. What's your take on this young man?
He's just found another gear, and really what he's doing for the city, kind of putting Canada on the map as a whole. But when people talk about him, it's a young boy from Kitchener who's going and doing all these great things. So he's really found another gear, and I think the Lakers are going to win the next series, but I really think that Denver is going to push them to 6 or 7, and Jamal Murray might end up being the best player in that series. So.
Staying with the Raptors for a second, and you made an interesting comment in the latest episode of Soul on Ice, and talking about Pascal Siakam, and he took a bit of heat on social media just because of maybe a bit of underwhelming play throughout the playoffs. He was a star and an all-star really throughout the regular season, but had his struggles. But the point you made that really stuck in my mind was a lot of these athletes, you have to be more cognizant of what they might be going through, especially in their situation. So unique playing in a bubble. You don't necessarily know the struggles they're going through, whether it's mentally just putting pressure on themselves or other things too, just a new situation in general. But how did you navigate, first of all, through that sort of stuff, being a high-level athlete yourself, and why is that important for people to keep in mind?
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, being an athlete myself, playing with a lot of guys who have gone through stuff like that, I know what it's like. Even Maskrin, he was a good friend of mine, and his draft year, he was so worried about being a high pick, and the draft was in his head a lot. And some people would give him crap for having a bad game when they don't realize that we're young and we go through a lot, and it's not as simple as it looks. And there's a lot more than the game that goes on. Some people got family stuff going on, mental issues. So I think it's really important for everyone to kind of just understand what people are going through, and maybe just take a step back, and before you go online and say something bad about someone, just think like maybe they're going through something tough. And yeah, you can give people crap for having a bad game. It is what it is. I'm not saying someone has a bad game, say, oh, they're the best player ever, but just with some of the comments that people make, I think we really got to be careful with what we say.
So in dealing with those pressures, it wasn't the typical teenage years that you had, having to deal with the pressures of not only furthering your career, but answering to the team as well, team success. What tools did you use to kind of stay focused and stay level-headed through all that?
I just talked a lot to Frank Hora, I believe he was our captain at the time, Maskrin. And that my second year in Kitchener, there was kind of a tough year. I was the start of the year expected NHL draft pick, and my year kind of just went downhill in my own play perspective, and just mentally I wasn't entirely there. But I talked to Frank a lot, Maskrin a lot, and a few other guys. McHugh was another young guy who I was really close with, and they kind of just helped me out the whole time. And honestly, after that, it made me a better person going through a little bit of adversity. I think my whole life I'd always been, or maybe not when I was younger, but from the time I was maybe 10 till the OHL, I'd always been one of the better players, always playing high minutes, never really sat in games, never been scratched. And I went through that for the first time in 1 year. And, at the time it was terrible for me, watching my draft stock fall and missing out on the draft. But when I look back at it, it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, because it's made me a better person and made me a better leader for sure.
So as you transitioned into that leadership role yourself, did you find yourself in that position like Hora was for you those years back, maybe providing that guidance to the rookies or younger players with the IceDogs as you transition your career there?
Yeah, I think that was one of the first things I tried to do. I remember when I first got here, Frank really took me under his wing, invited me over to his house, asked me to go out for dinner and stuff like that all the time. So I made sure as soon as I got to Niagara, even in my third year, after the first week or two meeting guys for the first time, I made sure that I really stepped up and was a leader on the team. And then going forward in my fourth and fifth year, I made sure like when guys get drafted and come over to my house, I'll make food, we can go get food, whatever, just little things like that really make people feel comfortable. And, if the team is really close and connected, they're going to play. You'll probably get 5 to 10 more wins if a team's close than a team that's kind of separated.
And the unsung heroes really behind the scenes for any OHL team are the Billets, and especially when you're away from home in the first couple of years. What was that like in terms of the importance of having a good Billet family for you?
I think honestly, my 2 Billet families that I had were probably some of the best in the CHL. I mean, right away with Debbie Weber and Kitchener and Tyler, I came in, was nervous, 16 years old, and they made me feel comfortable right away. And anything you want, just ask. If you need to talk, whatever, I'm here. So right away, they made me real comfortable here, and I really loved living with them. They're a great family. And then when I got to Niagara, I was a little nervous. Again, you're moving in with a new family. And I got a call from the Billet director and said, you're moving into a family with 3 young boys. And I was like, well, this is a change from Kitchener. But when I got there right away, the same thing, welcomed me in. And it was different because I got a younger brother, so kind of going to that and being able to play PlayStation with the Billet brothers and mini sticks and ping pong was kind of cool. And I kind of took on a big brother role for them, and even now to this day I'm still talking to them a lot. I went down to Niagara about a month ago to visit them just to kind of see what's up, and I'll probably be down again soon. But I think for a lot of people that plays a big role in being comfortable, and you have good billets, it's going to make a big difference.
And I hope you're taking it easy on them with the PlayStation.
No, not at all.
You're not one to let
up? The very first time, yeah. And then I had to show them how good I was.
Now, what's the game of choice these days?
I like 2K, NBA. It's probably my favorite game. It's you get in a PlayStation party and you hop on with your friends and you can just go to the park and play games over and over again, and it's a lot of fun.
Ever make your own player?
Yeah, of course. Every game. I usually own most of the sports games and make my own player, and sometimes do a season or be a pro mode or something like that, and kind of see what I can do, put up ridiculous numbers, and it's a lot of fun.
So a bit of a gamer. I'm curious then what you thought of how much the video games came to the forefront and playing video games with professional athletes. We were seeing it on different networks where they had tournaments for 2K too, and just seeing the personalities come through that. Did you catch any of that, and what were your thoughts if you did?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the NBA tournament, and I loved it. I mean, anything you can do really to get the player's personality a little bit more. And at that time, there was no sports on, so maybe it was something for people to watch. I know that in the NBA they also did games of horse with NBA players and WNBA players, so that was pretty exciting to watch. But I think, yeah, like I said, getting people's personality out there a lot more. It's I think athletes are a lot more interesting and exciting people than people know about. There's a lot of fun stuff about us, and I think we just got to show that as much as we can.
And another guy, going back to the NHL for a second, PK Subban seems to be the king of Instagram over this course of summer, talking about guys that are really putting their personality out there. Is that something that's really at the forefront now and top of mind for players in the game, that they just want to put themselves out there more so?
Yeah, I think it's starting to get there. I think everyone should be doing it, putting themselves out there more, showing the personality. I've always been a big fan of, or a supporter of, not wearing suits to the game. Let the players dress the way they want, feel comfortable. People always say, look good, feel good, play good. So as long as you're looking professional or looking decent, I think players should wear what they want. In interviews, a lot of the times you can watch an interview in hockey and you know what the player's going to say. Oh, dump the puck in, chip the puck in, we just got to block more shots, whatever. You know
Full
what they're going to say.
right?
And you watch an NBA interview or a football interview and you really don't know what they're going to say, and I think it's a lot more exciting. So I think that's something that hockey players still got a bit of a way to go, but it's you can see young guys that are starting to do that. I know Byfield shows a lot of personality. Akil's starting to, since we've got on the podcast, he's starting to show a lot more of his personality. So we got a long ways to go, but I think we'll get there eventually.
And do you think that only just benefit the game? It sounds like it at this point too, kind of shifting from the old school to the new school, if you will.
Yeah, I think it'll benefit a lot. You look at for me, I know a lot of people that play hockey that watch basketball, but I don't know a lot of people that play basketball that watch hockey. And I don't think it's because hockey's boring. I think it's because basketball players just kind of market themselves a little bit better and they show their personality a little bit better. And there's always, between interviews or whatever, it's going to be a little bit more exciting from a personality standpoint. So I think, I think hockey will get there. We'll see how long it takes. So
talking about maybe adding a bit of your flavor to that game day entrance, wearing your suit and tie, what's the little bit that you put with your ensemble really to make it your own really when you come into the rink?
New Year's game, I wore a cowboy hat with some cowboy boots and suit pants and
country theme almost.
Yeah, switch it up a little bit. I always did my best to kind of make my suits, or sometimes I didn't even wear a suit. I just wore really nice clothes and made it look good. But I always did my best to kind of show my personality. And for me, I've always been, before a game, I just got to feel happy, feel good. It's not about how much sleep I got or whatever. If I'm feeling good, I know I'm going to play good. So I just did little things to make myself feel good, and dressing up good was one of those things that kind of helped.
So you already mentioned a couple names at the next level that are really doing great things in terms of just heightening awareness and of their own brand and just bringing attention to the sport too. But who do you look up to specifically yourself to maybe help build your personality a little bit?
You mentioned PK. You see every day on Instagram. He's always posting videos, whether if it's his dogs in a race for eating food or him jumping off a boat or whatever he's doing. He's always showing a lot of personality, being a lot of fun. But I think another guy is Ovechkin, right from the time that he entered the league. He's with his celebrations and just how electric he was. It's a guy you can really look up to in terms of that.
This building's got a lot of personality too.
It does.
Talk about a segue, right? But you've seen every rink in the OHL. What does this building mean to you, and what do you think when you walk into this old barn, I guess, this historic arena in the OHL?
I think right away you see Madison Square Garden, and not just because it's the Rangers, but just the way the rink is set up, and it's it just got that like old-fashioned like feeling. There's a lot of rinks that are built new, like the Meridian Center, but here it's a little bit kind of just old-fashioned. You see, like when you walk in the concourse, you see all the history, all the names along the beams and the jerseys and everything. But yeah, there's so much history here, and just to get the chance to be a part of that was something really special.
Probably hard not to smile as both a Rangers player and just coming in as a visitor too.
Yeah, no, I remember my very first game here. I was just I took a lap around and walked around and was smiling and joking around with guys and warm up, and it's still, I was like, I got to play good. It's my first game back. I got to really have a good game, and I was playing pretty well. And in warm up, actually, McHugh and I joked around because we'd always in practice joke around about fighting if we ever played each other. So
did it ever happen?
Well, I'll get there. And so in warm up, joking around, he's like, "Do you want to go to this game?" And I said, "Probably not, but we'll see." So first period, I was playing well. They were the better team at the time, but I was playing well, and we were beating them. And he was like, "Do you want to go?" I'm like, "No, I'm playing well." Second period goes, and same sort of thing. They started to play a bit better, but whatever. He asked me again. I was like, "No." Third period, he dumped one of our best players from behind, and don't know why, but I just instantly just kind of dropped my gloves, and we fought that game, and we got to the box and we looked at each other and just started laughing, and then that was that. So it was pretty cool first game back here. I mean, didn't think that I would end up coming back and fighting my best friend on the team, but it's the way it went.
Not awkward at all, is it?
No, not at all. We literally were in the box just laughing, talking about like what's going on, and then because I got the instigator, so I was in the box for like 17 minutes. So I just got comfortable, took my helmet off and took my elbow pads off, and for a good like 4 or 5 minutes we were just talking, and it wasn't awkward at all. We talked after the game and we joke about it to this day.
What does that sort of bond mean to you, not only with McHugh but the rest of the teammates you've kept in touch with?
It's real special. I mean, McHugh, right away when we first came in, we were two 16-year-olds on a team that we didn't really carry that many 16-year-olds that year. It was just me, McHugh, Graffa, and Rich. So right away you establish a close relationship with those guys because you're doing a lot of things together in school together. So McHugh and I became best friends real early. We shared a lot of similarities, and then even guys like Mascarin and Bunneman, I still talk to Mascarin a lot. Like we just talk about like how things are going or whatever, and talk about going to get dinner soon. And Frank Hora, another guy, like he brought me in right away, and I think he just signed a contract, a pro contract somewhere. But
he did.
We talk a lot. We went to a Bills game a while back, so to have that bond and relationship that you kind of just build, I guess it was only 2 years for me, but it feels like a lot more, and it's over 2 years, it's relationships that you build for a long time.
Might be putting you on the spot just a little bit, nothing too intense, don't worry, but you obviously hear the conversations. After players have come and gone, it usually starts, "Oh, that Elijah Roberts, he was so blank." So if you were kind of in that conversation, Elijah Roberts was so blank, what's the word or description you would throw in there?
Fun, maybe? I really tried to, more in my time in Niagara, tried to keep the room light, fun, tried to go like paintballing and stuff like that with guys all the time. And you know, when we're at the rink, it's time to work. We get stuff done. We're on the ice. We're putting in our time on the ice. But then right after that, I tell guys, come over. Let's go do something. Let's really enjoy our time off, because if we're gonna put in the work while we're working, when we're not working, we got to have a lot of fun. And you know, so I think, I don't know, you can ask guys and see what word you get, but I think if guys kind of ask what word, probably fun or something like that.
As we get a batch of rookies coming in this year, what do you give them as advice coming into their first year as a Rangers player?
Just never stop working, really, and come in and be humble. Don't, because you're a first rounder, think you're the top of the world, because I've seen first rounders get pushed out of the league within 2-3 years of being in it, and I've seen guys that are undrafted playing in the NHL right now. So just come in and put your head down and keep working, and never for 1 second think that you've arrived so you can stop working. You just got to keep working the entire time. And you see guys like, I remember Graf, our first year, got scratched an entire month, and it was hard on him, but after practice every day, he was working. And you look at him now, he finished with over 300 career points, and it's kind of just an example of how if you never stop working, like, you don't really give up. Doesn't matter how small you are, as we've seen with Joey, or where you start off. If you just keep working, you'll get to where you want to go.
The grind never stops for
Never
anyone.
stops.
And
Never
you
stops.
see what can happen in just a matter of months. Last question for you. Where do you see Elijah Roberts in even 5 to 10 years from now?
5 to 10 years? I mean, I'm still trying to get into the NHL, so I want to say playing in the NHL.
And potentially as a forward too. You're making that switch, over.
Yeah, I'm hoping to stay at forward, so hopefully playing in the NHL. If not playing in the NHL, I would love to keep playing hockey, if it's overseas or wherever. And if I'm not playing hockey, I could really see myself being a coach, or starting to get into broadcasting pretty early. And 5-10 years from now, I also want to own my own business, maybe the clothing line, maybe something else. Yeah, and then I've also recently been really looking into real estate and buying, and yeah, I've looked into it a lot with my mom on buying a house and kind of developing it, and then maybe selling it down the road, or just little things I can do. So
You won't be busy at all.
no, I won't be busy at all, but I can definitely see myself doing a lot down the road, like I'm doing now, but hopefully a lot of good things.
Well, as we try to bring more eyes on your story and really what you're all about with the Soul on Ice podcast, why don't you share it with those at home, where they can catch the upcoming episodes and where they might be able to connect with you on social?
Yeah, so my social media is Elijah Roberts 98 on Twitter, I believe, Elijah_Roberts98 on Instagram. For Soul on Ice, it's Soul on Ice the podcast on both Twitter and Instagram, and that's where you can find our episodes. We post them every Wednesday, and just go show lots of support. Stay tuned. We got a lot of big things coming that can't really talk about yet, but we're slowly trying to figure out how we can just get better and better. So stay tuned, and we got a lot coming. Some
things under wraps, but we appreciate everything you did share with us today. So thanks so much for being here.
No, thanks for having me.
That's Elijah Roberts, Kitchener Rangers alum, making his return to the Odd here at Club 63. Thanks so much for tuning in.